If you're watching this video from the surface of the Earth, there is a good chance that right now your feet are about 94% in contact with the ground. That is, if you're standing up straight. Now imagine if the rules of physics changed. What would happen if, for 1 full minute, gravity stopped working? How would we survive a minute without gravity? In this video, we'll find out. 1 minute is 60 seconds, which is approximately the amount of time it takes to travel 14,000 miles per hour. That's faster than the speed of sound. It's faster than any jet fighter, hypersonic missile, or spacecraft that has ever been made by humankind. So it's safe to say that if gravity stopped working for a full minute, none of us would be able to escape the effects of such a change. The force of gravity is what keeps our feet on the ground and prevents us from floating away into outer space, but it does far more than that. It is what keeps the moon in orbit around the Earth and keeps the Earth in orbit around the sun. The laws of gravity also hold all the planets in our solar system in orbit around the sun. Keep the electrons in orbit around the atom's nucleus and keep the nucleus itself intact. Gravity is also responsible for the tides on Earth. It causes the water to bulge out on the side of the Earth closest to the moon. Gravity makes the water on the opposite side of the Earth bulge out too. This is why we have 2 high tides every day, roughly every 12 hours and 25 minutes. If the moon were to disappear from orbit around the Earth, the tides would still continue, but they would be much weaker. Without gravity, the very concept of a solar system could not exist. There wouldn't be any planets, moons, stars, or galaxies. Stars couldn't form, light wouldn't shine, and water couldn't flow. It would be utter chaos. So what happens if gravity stops working for just 1 minute? Anything that's not attached to anything else will drift upwards, including us humans. Most of us weigh between 100 and 200 pounds. That's due to the force of gravity acting on our mass. If gravity stopped working, we would instantly become weightless, similar to how astronauts become weightless when they orbit the Earth in the International Space Station. In this situation, we can expect cars to slide upward, untethered dogs to take flight, buildings to rise heavenward, and gigantic waves to start rolling toward the sky. In fact, any loose object, whether it's trash or a sheet of metal, will start rising slowly at first, then faster and faster until it reaches terminal velocity. However, there is something that needs to be clarified here. Terminal velocity only applies to objects moving through the atmosphere. But when gravity stops working, there's no atmosphere anymore. So this scenario will only last 60 seconds because after that, gravity starts working again. That's when all the loose objects will start falling rapidly toward the Earth, accelerating at a rate of 9.8 meters per second squared. It doesn't matter whether you're in a plane, a car, or on foot. You won't be able to outrun this gravitational freefall. You won't even be able to hide from it. You can't dig a hole in the ground fast enough to save yourself. In fact, during these 60 seconds of terror, you won't be able to do anything. You'll be too busy trying to stay alive. When gravity stops working, the first thing you'll notice is that you can breathe a lot easier. You won't need to put any effort into breathing. You'll be so light that simply breathing will cause you to shoot straight upward. The air inside your lungs expands, causing your diaphragm and rib muscles to contract. The pressure in your chest cavity drops, while the pressure outside your body increases, so air rushes in and fills your lungs. Once there, it pushes against the weakened muscles in your chest cavity, forcing them to relax and push the air further down into your lungs. At this point, you'll feel like you're drowning in thin air, struggling to fill your lungs with oxygen before it's too late. As you struggle to breathe, you may try to calm down, but it's impossible. Your heart beats faster and your pulse rises. Adrenaline pumps in, preparing your body to run from danger or fight back against the attacker. But there is no danger to run from and nothing to fight. It's pointless. If you're not already dead by now, you will be soon. As all the oxygen in your lungs gets pushed out and replaced by carbon dioxide, you'll suffocate. It's worth noting that if gravity disappeared for longer than a minute, the whole human race would be doomed. If gravity stopped working for a few days, the atmosphere would eventually drift out into space. After a month or two, the sun would explode and swallow the Earth. Within a year, the Earth would be reduced to a barren rock. But let's assume that the Earth remains unchanged and gravity only stops working for a single minute. If that happened, some people would be lucky. People who live near the equator would be slightly better off because gravity is weaker there than at the poles. But overall, nobody would come out of this situation unharmed. After all, gravity doesn't just hold us to the ground, it holds the very fabric of the universe together. If it disappeared for a minute, everything would go crazy. The air itself would rise into the sky, creating violent storms. Birds would spin out of control in the sky along with planes. High-speed trains would lift off their tracks. Even the rivers would ripple upwards. When gravity stops working for a minute, the oceans would also rise. Oceans cover more than 70% of the Earth's surface and contain more than 97% of all the water on the planet. The average depth of the ocean is about 2,300 miles, which means that the Pacific Ocean is almost twice as tall as Mount Everest. If gravity stopped working for just 60 seconds, the oceans would float upward and envelop the entire planet. Even though the oceans would only rise a few inches, they would still cause devastating damage. Water would flood coastal cities and erode beaches, destroying homes, roads, and other infrastructure. Floods would also wipe away sand dunes that took years to form. Animals living near the coast would be among the first casualties. Many fish would jump out of the water and flop onto dry land where they would quickly die. Crabs, sea turtles, and seals would be swept out to sea and drown. But some creatures would benefit from this temporary lapse in gravity. Marine mammals such as dolphins and whales would be able to leap higher and farther than usual. Fish could soar through the air and birds could swim underwater. And then, just as suddenly as it stopped working, gravity would start working again. It would snap the Earth back into place and cause everything that floated upward to crash back down. Skyscrapers would shatter, planes would plummet, and coastlines would drown under falling oceans. The Earth would experience its greatest catastrophe in history. But in the midst of all this chaos, some people would witness something truly amazing. They would experience the joy of flight, even if it was only for a brief moment. They would touch the stars. After the initial panic, some brave souls would realize what was happening and choose to stay calm. They would take advantage of the situation and soar through the air like birds. Some would jump from rooftops and dance in the sky. Others would lie on their backs and watch the clouds drift beneath them. But even those who chose to embrace the moment would still face danger. Eventually, gravity would return and everything would come crashing down again. The people who stayed in the air would be no exception. they would slam to the ground and get injured or even killed. But for that one precious minute, they would feel free from the chains of gravity that have held humanity back for centuries. Free to experience the world from a new perspective, free to touch the stars. But the question remains, would you rather experience that or avoid the coming catastrophe? Would you want to fly or remain rooted to the ground? Let us know in the comments. And thank you for watching. If you liked this video, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe for more amazing content.